Chaos.radio. Music, podcasts, entertainment.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of NEWSWAVE. Written, produced and recorded in the heart of Cornwall by the team here at Chaos Radio. Now, I'm your host Tom Howe and I'll be guiding you through some of the insightful guests and exciting news content that we've enjoyed across Chaos Radio this past week. On today's show, we join Derek Thomas from the Central Cornwall Integrated Care Area and Neil McKay from Truro's Integrated Neighbourhood team to learn about the NHS's Caring Where It Matters campaign and the neighbourhood health and wellbeing events happening right the way across Cornwall. We check in with charity co-founders Kay and Darren from Rest with Joseph and Friends to discuss their plans for a peaceful memorial garden for babies lost before 24 weeks and how the community can support their work. As well as that, we take a trip to St Ewe to meet Affordable Housing Chair Paul Sibley and Vice Chair Will Richards to hear how the community has raised funds to secure land for the next phase of their affordable housing scheme. We hear from Dr. Hilary Jones and Asda pharmacist Michelle Holmes about Asda Pharmacy's new ISSUE acronym, created to help people understand when they can speak to a pharmacist instead of booking a GP appointment. And we welcome Nick Smith, Chief Executive of Young People Cornwall, to discuss the surge in demand for youth mental health supports and why the charity has had to pause new referrals.
NEWSWAVE.
But first this week, local people across Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly are being encouraged to help shape the future of their local health and wellbeing services through a series of neighbourhood events held by the NHS. More than 1,000 residents have already taken part in an online survey, and now the public is being invited to meet neighbourhood teams to share their ideas and learn about the support that's already available in their area. To tell us more about the Caring Where It Matters campaign, I spoke to Derek Thomas, Place Director for the Central Cornwall Integrated Care Area, and Neil McKay, the Clinical Lead for Truro's Integrated Neighbourhood team.
NEWSWAVE.
Derek, Neil, thank you both for joining us. Let's start with the basics. Can you introduce us to these neighbourhood health and wellbeing events and why they're happening, please?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So, the events are taking place in February and March across Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. They've been designed to bring health and care planning closer to communities by inviting our local people to share what works well for them, what's difficult, and also, what's missing in the neighbourhoods. And the feedback we're after will directly shape the neighbourhood health and wellbeing plans. It's part of Caring Where It Matters campaign, which is about delivering services closer to home and designing the care with the communities, not just for them.
Fantastic. And Neil, I suppose that sort of encapsulated all of it, didn't it, really?
I did. I was just thinking, that's pretty much the script. No, I agree. I think, the idea of bringing care, looking at your local town, the community that you live in. A lot of the time, the GPs or the practice might think we know what people need, or we think how the health service wants. And the idea of these events is to give people a chance to talk to us directly and to come up with ideas of what's missing, what they'd like to develop, and how the wider community can feed into the health service, rather than just us trying to design what we think people might need in their community.
Brilliant. Yeah, so important, isn't it? What difference have you seen community input make when it comes to designing care in the areas that you both live and work?
I suppose, for me, it's particularly Truro based. That's where I'm one of the GPs. We've been looking at what the local people need and the areas where people have come up with suggestions of what they feel is missing. And it's quite often quite inspiring, really, for the practice to then have that feedback and be sort of encouraged to do things that we know people want, that they need. And also seeing how many other agencies and teams are out there. I think quite often within the NHS, you can be stuck in your own bubble at times. And there's so many voluntary sectors, so many other agencies, so many other charities out there who are doing huge work that we don't know about. So actually having that dialogue and having people bringing things all together to work for a community makes a huge difference.
Okay.
And just to agree with what Neil said there, actually, I mean, I think, the local community knows itself the best. And I think Neil's point around being aware of what fantastic services there are out there, particularly in our charity sector, which is really vibrant across the whole of Cornwall, is really fabulous. And it basically allows us, all of us within the system, but also communities, to sort of share that knowledge and make sure we're making best use of what's out there already. And then, of course, identify any gaps, as Neil mentioned earlier on.
Yeah. What can people expect from these events then? And what are the different benefits of getting involved?
Okay, so I think if I go first, Neil, I mean, what I can expect is meeting the local neighbourhood team as a start. So the one down at St Ewe that we've got next week, you'll meet Neil and his team, for example. And then we've got another one later on in March in St Austell, where you'll meet the team there as well. There's going to be wellbeing stalls. There's going to be general health and wellbeing advice, even health checks, actually, is the plan. And also Cornwall Mobility are going to be there to share some a selection of mobility equipment that people may or may not be interested in. I'm sure there's lots of other things, Neil, as well, isn't there?
Yeah, no, definitely. So the day's planned to have different events running through the day for different people who may or may not want to come. There's going to be some smaller group workshops where anyone who can book on and can come and talk to us and bring up personal issues or things they feel the community needs for that area and meet us and ask us questions about what we're doing, what we want to do, what their aims are, what it's all about. There's also an online workshop in the evening where people can register. So if they're working or they can't attend, they can book a time with that, where I'll be there and again, some of the wider team. We've also got some events for children in the morning, some other things happening. So you can just drop in. Throughout the day, the stalls will be running, we'll be around, we ask questions, but there are also some more formal events and some Q&As through it as well.
And Derek teased...
I believe there's...
Oh, go on. Sorry, Derek teased an appearance from yourself. Often these events have got a celebrity, be it national, international or local. So is that the role you're filling, Neil, at this next event in St Ewe?
I think that might have to be the local celebrities, about as good as it gets. We'll try and wheel some others out. I've definitely got some famous ones from the practice coming, but that's about as good as we've managed so far.
Oh, and I think not just about celebrity, Tom, but also there's going to be some light lunch. And there was rumour at previous events we had, there was even some pasties to fuel discussion. So no promises, but that might be a little incentive there for people to come if they weren't planning to already.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll make that clear to people, as well as all the other benefits, of course, as well. You touched upon it in one of your previous answers, but how are teams across Cornwall already working together to bring care closer to home, and how will these events help build on that work?
So I think, again, across the patch, and I look after the whole of Central Cornwall, Neil can talk about Truro specifically, integrated neighbourhood teams are working more closely together. So, whether you're part of a GP practice or whether you're part of a community hospital or even, Royal Cornwall Hospital Trust, Trelisk, people are working more closer together to look at the needs of the population in the communities that we serve and looking at how we can join up those services better. So actually people are getting the care they need closer to home as possible. So these events absolutely strengthen those relationships and give us real life feedback from those attending on their experience or members of family experience, which obviously we really want to hear both the good things and the things that we can do better. So this really helps us focus on the areas that really matter for our population.
You've already spoken with hundreds of people. We're seeing some of the numbers come through on social media of people attending these events. More than 1,000 already have engaged with the online survey. Without giving away any secrets or breaching any confidentialities, what have people been telling you?
So I think they've been telling us what works well. So they've been giving us some real life examples of where they've had really great service. They've also shared very honestly where they face challenges and what they feel is missing, which absolutely is important to us. I mean, it's clear, the NHS and the broader health and wellbeing teams are under huge pressure at the moment. We know that. But actually, we've got such fantastic services outside of them. We mentioned the voluntary sector, the local authority. There are many other organisations that can step in and help. And I guess, for us, it's about how do we get all of those services working in a way that can address the gaps and solve some of those problems already. But actually, if there is a genuine gap, what can Neil, what can I, what can the system do to try and look at bridging that? So actually the feedback's been fantastic so far. You're right, over 1,000 people have already gone in. We had over 200 people turn up to our Lanivet event earlier this week and another over 100 down in Cornwall. So hoping for similar numbers at St and St Austell.
Yeah, and it's often the case, not everybody can make it in person, so putting detail online and having this survey is so important, just to make sure as many people as possible can access this information and help you guys make a difference as well. What would your advice be for anyone listening who wants to take part then, either in person or online, and how can they find out more?
So I would encourage anyone to come along as they can. As I've said, we have on the 19th of February and St Austell in early March. We'll be advertising through the NHS website and on our Facebook pages. We'll also be putting the online survey on there as well. So I won't read the link, but it will be there for people to click on. So if you cannot attend, please do take that opportunity. As Neil said, there will be people around as well for sessions, both in person and online. And we would really encourage people of all ages to come along and help shape the services in their communities.
Wonderful. My last question is, before we let you go, can I just ask whether there's anything that you wanted to add or anything that we haven't covered that you think is important for people to hear?
I was just saying, actually, the more people can either come along or let us know what they want. It's been a great year, 18 months project so far, and it's really gaining momentum across the whole county. And this is a real chance now that we've got started, and we really want to hear from the people in the communities what they need and what they would like to change, good and bad. And I think this is a real opportunity to just talk outside of a health setting and to see all the different groups of what would make a difference for them. So if anyone wants to let us know, even if they can't come, just send in the link. Yeah, it would all be very, very helpful for us and really useful.
Yeah, it's so important. Thank you both for having joined us here at Chaos this afternoon. We really appreciate what you're doing, and yeah, perhaps we'll drop by one of these sessions for a bit of a chat and a pasty as well. What's not to love?
NEWSWAVE.
Now, a charity based in the St Austell area is working to create a peaceful burial and memorial garden for babies lost before 24 weeks of pregnancy, offering comfort, recognition and a place to grieve for families who often feel their loss goes unseen. Rest with Joseph and Friends was founded by local residents Kay and Darren after the loss of their son Joseph. They join me to share their story, their mission and how the community can support their work. And just a little warning beforehand, some of the topics discussed in the following interview may be difficult for some people to hear.
NEWSWAVE.
So Kay and Darren, thank you both for joining us. For listeners who may be learning about Rest with Joseph and Friends for the first time, and only if you feel comfortable as well, could you share a little bit about your son Joseph and the experience that led you to founding the charity, please?
Yes, of course. We tried through IVF 3 times to fall pregnant. We was lucky enough to do so. That led to Joseph. He was what we can call Dennis the Menace through pregnancy. He had his own little character, a bit of a show-off, liked his picture being taken. But sadly, we lost him at 23 weeks. My waters broke, developed an infection, and then unfortunately we had to give birth to him, and he was born sleeping. 23 weeks old. 1 more week and we would have had a birth certificate, acknowledgement, him part of our family tree, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. So we wanted to raise awareness and give families just a place where they could have recognition for their baby that they've just lost, because as it stands you don't, and there's no law to bury them or anything. It's just heartbreaking and isolating, and you're trying to grieve something that in the world doesn't exist. It's very difficult to get that across to people on the effects that it does have on the families that go through this.
Thank you for sharing, and we hope that something so positive is coming out of something unbearably negative and so sad. And it's not until you chat about these things that you realise how many people are affected by things like baby loss and all the associated traumas. And it is the same, losing a baby before 24 weeks often does go unrecognised, doesn't it? Many people won't realise that families in this position can't register a birth or even a death. How did that lack of acknowledgement affect you both, and how does it shape now the work that you're doing together? It
was just devastating. You go through your whole pregnancy, you have your scans, you see him wriggling on the screen, he's waving at you, you see his heartbeat, you hear it, and you just imagine your life with him. For 23 weeks we had time to do his nursery, set it all up, planning the house and everything with him, and then he was just taken. We didn't even get to hear his cry. We didn't see his eyes open or anything, didn't hear anything of him whatsoever. We was just holding him, and you just can't go through life forgetting that. It is part of you all the time. You always think he is your son. People ask you all the time, do you have kids? But yes, I do. But in the eyes of the law and on the family tree and all registration, he just doesn't exist. But yeah, I was holding him, growing him, and there he is. And then you just think, and then you're given the options of the aftermath, which is so soon after. There's so much to take in that you're just like, what is going on currently? Because we didn't want his birth to be there for no reason. We knew there was a reason for him, so we thought we have to do something to recognise him and to just help other families that are going through it. So we've wanted to set up a burial and memorial garden to lay to rest our babies that have been lost, to give them that recognition in the world, to give a space where families can go to comprehend their grief, to provide comfort for them, and just be in a safe space where they're not isolated and they can gain support from everybody else, because everyone who will go there is going through it.
Your vision then, just to clarify, your vision is to create a peaceful burial and memorial garden for babies lost before 24 weeks. Would you mind just painting us a bit of a picture of what that space might look like and why it's so important for grieving parents as well?
Yeah, we didn't want a cemetery feel. They're registered, they're part of the world, they're part of people. We wanted a place where they can be recognised in the world, and not just... Because I think the government now, they give out an acknowledgement sort of certificate that goes in your drawer. It's a very good idea that is moved forward, but we still reckon there should be more. So we wanted to provide a space that is in the world where they will exist. They will have their own plaque, they'll have a tranquil garden space, it'll be peaceful, it'll be a garden where families can all come together. It will provide existence for them. We want the plan to be like an angelic baby, an angel. So they're going there for a space dedicated for baby angels, and it'll just be a lovely, tranquil space that they'll get the natural beauty. It'll be the smells, they'll get nature, they'll get peaceful. We want like memorial garden bit with waterfalls to recognise the babies that are not able to be buried. Yeah, we just want an actual place where families can be brought together so their family tree is complete.
This is such a big part of the work that you're doing, but all year round we're seeing you at different events, we're seeing you pop up on social media doing different things and doing such important work in the community. What else are you involved in throughout the year?
At the moment we're trying to get a little diary going of what we can do. We've got quiz nights being organised at the moment through a restaurant in St Austell. We're hoping to get on more festivals so we can get a tent up there and just provide more awareness. We're in the current plans of providing another fundraiser. Previously we've had like myself and my husband and the trustees dressed as monkeys going through Cornwall doing different activities, so we want to do something else to make more awareness and to just get us out there, and hopefully people will see us and think, what are they doing, and then look it up and then realise the importance of the work that we are trying to do and raise awareness and get the money and the land to be able to do what we need to do to help so many families going through the same thing.
And you're currently searching for suitable land in mid-Cornwall to start this garden. What kind of location are you hoping to find, and what should people do if they think they might be able to help?
At the minute, we would like mid-Cornwall, so it's easily accessible for everybody in Cornwall, because we realise the importance of being able to get there. So we need it easily accessible in a localised sort of area so people can go, whether they've got transport or not, they can use the public services. We want about 1 to 1.5 acres of land, flood-free for obvious reasons. We are on the hunt for it, and this is the poignant part that will make the charity be able to do what it can do and help all those people, and it will give the space. So if you do please have the land available or know a plot that we could find we could use to see if it's suitable, then please get in touch with us on our website. There's an email address, hello@restforjosephandfriends.co.uk. You can call us, the contact number's on there, through Messenger on Facebook or Instagram. Anything, just please contact us, because this is the most important thing of the charity for us to be able to achieve what we need to achieve.
For anyone listening today who has experienced a similar loss or who simply wants to support your mission, what are some of the other ways that they can get involved?
They can become volunteers. We're more than welcome. We're always looking for volunteers to be able to do certain things. We've got a concert that a choir is kindly raising money for us, and they've got a guest singer, Sir Willard White, down in Red Roof, so he'll be there supporting. We need volunteers for that. We need donations. Obviously, the more donations we get, the more money that we can get to achieving our goal, the more money we can put towards the materials, the land, just everything that's going to be involved. If you think you've got land available and you're not sure if it'll be suitable, please still get in touch, as we've got a planning consultant on board who's willing to go and see if the land would be what we need or what is required to get through the planning permission. So we've got everybody on board that we need to be able to achieve it. We just need land to come forward so we can actually start planning and doing it properly. Just please, if you can help. There's so many people suffering in isolation, and it's an isolating grief, but it doesn't have to be. We can all help each other and get a space that will be dedicated for you and your little ones, and give them the recognitions that they need.
NEWSWAVE.
Right, you're listening to NEWSWAVE here on Chaos Radio with me, Tom Howe. Do you know what the issue is? Well, it's a new acronym created by Asda Pharmacy to help patients learn that they can turn to a pharmacy rather than their GP, after a snapshot poll of UK GPs revealed that around 22% of Brits admit they've booked a GP appointment for something a pharmacy could have handled. Cheryl Gordon was joined by Dr. Hilary Jones, broadcaster and himself a GP, and Michelle Holmes, an Asda pharmacist, to find out more.
NEWSWAVE.
I think people still think that the GP is their doctor, the first port of call if they're poorly. They don't think outside the box. And 2 years ago, Pharmacy First was introduced by the Department of Health and Social Care. And this was to encourage people to go and see their pharmacists, who are highly trained and clinically trained too, to deal with common minor conditions. So 50% of the population we know don't realise what those minor conditions are that can be treated by the pharmacist. So Asda Pharmacy came up with a brilliant acronym to remind people what they are. And the acronym is Issue Is. And what Issue Is stands for is the following. I is for infected insect bites. S is for sore throat. Another S is sinusitis. Then you've got U for uncomplicated urinary tract infections, bladder infections. E is for earache. And then the is impetigo and shingles. So those 7 common conditions can be treated by the pharmacist. They can see you, talk to you, if necessary, take you into their private consultation room, diagnose and treat you with a prescription if necessary.
Dr. Hilary, research shows some GPs are losing over an hour each day dealing with minor conditions. From your experience, how could wider use of Pharmacy First help relieve some of that pressure?
It would help enormously if more people were aware that pharmacists can help by prescribing, if necessary, appropriately antibiotics in some cases. It would take the pressure off GPs and free them up to see the more complex cases. For example, people with weakened immune systems, the very elderly with complex conditions, people with symptoms that could be suggestive of cancers. So it would help those people, it would help the GPs, and it would help everybody else who've got these minor conditions, who don't want to wait days to get a GP appointment, who want to be seen on the spot straight away, perhaps when they're doing their shopping at the same time.
Michelle, many people still don't fully understand what pharmacists are trained to treat. What are some of the biggest misconceptions you come across about the role of pharmacists?
So a lot of people just think that we just deal with medications, and that's not true. We go through 5 years of training. We are your experts in your medications, but we also have some clinical training. to be able to give you those appropriate diagnoses for the common conditions. And they're things that we see all the time. So, every summer we see lots of infected insect bites. Historically, we knew what was needed for them, but we couldn't give you any treatment. We now can. So instead of sending you to your GP, you can come to your Asda pharmacy and you can get the treatment that you need.
Dr. Hilary and Michelle, you're both encouraging people to remember the new issues is acronym. How do you think the simple tool will help listeners know when to choose pharmacy first?
I think it'll remind people what those conditions are. And even if you can't remember the acronym issue is, you'll know that so many things that happen to you, a blocked up nose, sinusitis, earache in your child, shingles in your elderly parents, for example, another bladder infection that women will recognise are recurrent and frequent. These things can be treated by your pharmacist. And even if it doesn't fall into those 7 things, your pharmacist can still give you good advice and, if necessary, escalate to advise you to go and see your GP or somebody else. So we're all part of a team. Pharmacists, GPs, hospital consultants. We're all part of a broader team which is there to make treatment more accessible, more effective, safe and, on your doorstep, if you like.
Michelle, for someone listening at Asda Pharmacy with one of the issue is symptoms, what does the consultation process look like? Can they really receive NHS treatments directly from the pharmacist?
Yes, they can. So there are around 20 million people that walk through Asda stores each week. So you're doing your shopping, you've had that niggling sore throat, you can just head to your in-store Asda Pharmacy, advise that you've got that niggling sore throat, you'll be taken into the private consultation room by the pharmacist. We will look at your throat, we'll give a diagnosis and provide you with the appropriate treatment, which could include antibiotics if that's required.
Finally, to anyone listening who feels unsure about going to a pharmacist instead of a doctor, what would you say to reassure them and encourage them to use pharmacy first?
So pharmacists are trained, we're clinically trained, we're easily accessible, we've got extended opening hours, we're there when you need us. If it was anything more serious, we have the ability to refer you onwards to your GP or another healthcare professional. So we, really patients should be think pharmacy first.
NEWSWAVE.
Now, youth support services across Cornwall are under unprecedented pressure, with young people Cornwall having to temporarily pause referrals after a surge in demand for mental health and wellbeing support. The charity, which has worked with children and young people for more than half a century, says referrals have risen to around 50 a week, far beyond what current staffing and funding can sustain. To explain what's driving the crisis, how it's affecting young people, and what support is still available through their hubs across the county, I was joined by their Chief Executive, Nick Smith.
NEWSWAVE.
Nick, thanks for joining us here at Chaos. Let's start with the situation as it stands. Young People Cornwall has had to temporarily close referrals because of exceptionally high demand. Can you explain what it is that's happening on the ground and why the pressures have risen?
So I guess as a bit of context and background, in 2010-2011 we experienced massive public sector cuts which affected youth provision across the country. So in real terms there's been a 78% decline in local authority youth services since that time. Now inevitably what that means is that young people over those years have found it difficult to access preventative services, so places to go, things to do, someone to talk to. And what we're seeing at the moment is a perfect storm really that's resulted in those as a result of those public sector cuts. And obviously since COVID we've seen an exponential rise in young people experiencing anxiety, low mood and depression. So today what's happened is that many organisations in Cornwall are really, like ourselves, have struggled to find funding and to continue their services. And that obviously puts pressure on those that remain, like us. So as each organisation struggles to meet the needs of young people coming into them, inevitably they look at partner organisations like ourselves to try to support and help those young people. Unfortunately, what's happened increasingly over the last 2 years is that we've had experienced a massive increase in referrals week on week. So over the last few months in particular, we've received about 50 referrals a week for issues such as low mood, anxiety, depression, self-harm, eating disorders, a whole range of issues that young people are experiencing out there. And when there is a lack of accessible services. Children and adolescent mental health services, CAMS, are overrun with really complex cases. It falls to organisations like us to try and pick those young people up. But unfortunately, we're overwhelmed. We haven't got the staff or the numbers of staff we need to meet that need. And unfortunately, we have had to suspend referrals for a little while we get back on top of it, because the last thing we want is young people in crisis coming to us for a service and not being able to receive it. So currently our waiting list is at about 12 weeks, which is, if you need help now, that is not acceptable. So it's a really difficult situation, one that we're monitoring carefully, we're trying to keep on top of, and we're doing our utmost to try to, work with those young people on the waiting list so we can open referrals again.
For listeners then who may not know the full picture, can you just introduce Young People Cornwall, who you are, what you do, and the kinds of support that your team offers across the county?
Okay, so we're a charity. We're actually 52 years old now. So we were set up in 1974, and originally we were set up to support volunteer-led youth clubs. Our kind of remit and our strategic direction has changed considerably since that day. We provide a range of services for children and young people. So they include youth clubs across the county. We run dedicated detached youth work. So we go out to areas where young people may be gathering, maybe causing a bit of trouble in communities, and we can send a team of youth workers in, a bit like the A-team, I guess, who go in, engage with those young people on the streets, hopefully get on their side and find some positive activities for them to do. We also provide dedicated mental health and wellbeing support through a team of wellbeing practitioners and one-to-one workers. On top of that, we work with young people who have been victims of crime, and a range of other programmes and projects which aim to sort of increase the participation of young people in local democracy, getting their voices heard, enabling them to articulate their experiences, their needs, and their wishes, so that they can shape future services.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You do work with youth workers, wellbeing practitioners, mental health specialists, and as you said there, the list goes on. What difference do you see this range of support making to the young people who come through your doors?
Well, I mean, obviously we work with around 2,500 young people each year. So the difference we make can really depend on each individual. I suppose there's a few things that come to mind. So routinely we collect information and feedback from young people about their experiences whilst they're with us, and the kind of impact that our work has made. And I think the most telling one for me that I've heard really is from a young person who just said, well, the biggest difference that you've made to me is I get fed, which, it's very poignant. We don't live in Victorian England anymore. To hear those words coming from a young person today is a sad indictment of our society, really. So I think on that scale, from meeting the basic needs of children and young people, I think we're able to do that. Generally, we aim to increase the self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, sense of usefulness for young people who access our services. In our youth clubs, we aim to enable young people to associate with each other, to socialise, to be able to develop those kind of key communication skills, conflict resolution skills, whatever they might be, to develop their potential, to be happy, which is probably the most important thing.
The world is so much different, isn't it, when the sun's shining and you've got a smile on your face, and for so many people that seems a long way away, and demand is clearly huge, isn't it? What are young people telling you about the challenges they're facing in 2026, and how is that shaping the way you can and are delivering support?
I think it's really interesting because the issues that young people face today are so different from the issues that myself and my peers faced a long time ago. So the things that we're witnessing tend to be, I do not want to catastrophize things for young people here, but the reality is for young people living in places in Cornwall, they are they're at risk of criminal exploitation, sexual exploitation. Many young people are experiencing family breakdown, complex family situations which impact on their health and their well-being. We're seeing young people being excluded from school or self-excluding because they don't like the experience that the experience of being schooled. Obviously, we have this incredible rise in mental health issues, which we spoke about earlier. But, the numbers of young people coming through our doors who are experiencing low mood, anxiety, depression, it is shocking, and it's terrifying, and it I would say it is almost like an epidemic. I have been involved with Young People Cornwall in youth work for over 30 years, and I don't think I've ever known a situation quite as stark as this.
Although referrals are paused, you're running support hubs and different services in towns right the way across Cornwall. What do these hubs look like, for example?
Okay, so for the most part, our support hubs are run from our youth centres. They run for sort of 2 or 3 hour sessions, depending on their location. And they offer is an open door, basically, into a centre where they can access support from a youth worker and a qualified mental health practitioner, generally a wellbeing practitioner. What it means is that young people don't have to sit on a waiting list. They don't have to sit on our referral waiting list. They can see someone literally that week, depending upon where they live. They don't have to wait for specialist support via CAMS or other organisations or agencies. So they can walk in off the street or phone us up and book a slot and a time to meet with one of our workers who can do some short, small interventions, maybe developing some coping strategies and some ideas of helping them with their mental health, potentially referring them to other organisations and agencies if that's the right thing for them to do. But it's very much about working alongside the young person to identify what they want, what they want their outcome of that intervention to be, what the best form of support will look like for them, and to try to get that as soon as possible for them.
You've been part of Cornwall's youth sector for many years now, Nick, as you mentioned in one of your previous answers. From your perspective, how is the landscape changing, and what do organisations like yours need in order to keep meeting rising demand? We talk about the support that you're giving. What support do you need?
It always comes down to money, unfortunately, and I hesitate to bring that up really, but as with any organisation, whether you're a charity, a business, or a statutory one, funding is the limiting factor in what we can offer. That obviously is vital because we all need funding streams to be able to provide the services that children and young people need. However, there are other ways you can support us, and quite often that is like advocacy, it's collaborating with us, offering opportunities for children and young people who sometimes just may not have the information about the range of opportunities that Cornwall has to offer. Here at Chaos, for example, you've shown me fantastic studio space that young people could access who've got an interest in technology and media and comms. We know that's a growing market and of interest to young people. So it's things like this. It's advocating on behalf. It's collaborating, supporting. So we run social media channels. You can see a lot of the stuff that we're doing out there on a daily, weekly basis. Get involved, have conversations with us, and just keep thinking of us, really, because we're not the only organisation doing this type of work in Cornwall, but all of us are under extreme pressure at the moment, not just from demand, but from an economic situation, which makes it really, really tricky for us to operate within.
For anyone listening then who's concerned about a young person or is a young person themselves who wants to reach out, where can they find out more about the different methods of support that are available? Okay,
from us, what I would say is I would steer them towards our website straight away. So that's www.youngpeoplecornwall.org.uk. On there, you will find details of the support services that we offer, including details of the support hubs, opening times, where they are, other youth clubs that we run and other projects that we run. You can also give us a call. We do have a phone still, 01872 222 447. If you want to, you can just pick up the phone and give us a call, and someone will answer and we'll steer you in the right direction.
And finally, before we let you go, is there anything you'd like to add or anything we haven't touched upon that you feel is important for any of our listeners to hear?
Thank you for inviting us. It's been a real pleasure. From my point of view, I would urge everyone in our community just to keep an eye out for children and young people who may be suffering, who may not be having the best time, and point them in the right direction. And like I said before, really, to remember that, young people need opportunity, they need aspirations, and they need opportunity to try out new things. And you don't have to be scared to get involved with young people. You can go and volunteer with us or with other organisations and bring your skills and talents to the table, where young people can learn off you and develop something, an interest in something that they haven't previously been able to.
NEWSWAVE.
And finally, a major milestone has been reached in the small but determined parish of St Ewe, where the community has successfully raised the funds needed to buy land for the next phase of their affordable housing project. After delivering 6 homes back in 2012, the village has pulled together once again to secure a site for 4 more much-needed properties, helping local people stay in the place they grew up and rely on. To talk us through the long journey to this point, the fundraising effort and what happens next, I visited the village to join St Ewe Affordable Housing Chair Paul Sibley and Vice Chair Will Richards.
NEWSWAVE.
I'm Paul Sibley, I'm Chairman of St Ewe Affordable Housing. We have achieved 6 houses over the last few years, and this next project is to develop the next bit of field into 4 more affordable houses.
Wonderful, and if I could come to you as well.
Okay. My name is Will Richards. I'm the Vice Chair of St Ewe Affordable Housing Limited and also the Chair of St Ewe Parish Council.
Okay, now for people that aren't aware of what's going on today, it seems like the whole village here has come out to celebrate. But for people that might not be aware, can we just retrace the steps of this story, where it all began and where we are today?
It probably began in 2008 when we realised there was a need for affordable housing. Did a parish survey and the usual things that needed it and justified it. And that culminated in developing Glebe Terrace, which is a terrace just between here and the village, for 6 affordable homes, and they were opened and occupied in 2012. We always knew there was a bit more of a demand or need for more affordable houses, and we've identified this site and been able to acquire it recently from the Diocese of Truro.
And it's been an incredible effort from the community, fundraising, raising awareness, talking to all of the right people, because these things just don't happen overnight. You talked then, 2008, this has been going on since.
Absolutely, and once the land became available, we had to raise the money, and we've been through all the organisations within the parish, and then we've had to also rely on fundraising from the community, and we've raised a lot of money from our crowdfunder. 104 people gave to the crowdfunding, and then we also had some individuals who gave us generous donations, and in the end we've managed to raise enough money to buy the land and secure it for the future of our community.
Tell me about the community here, because it's the first time I've been here in quite a while, but like I said, it seems like everybody's come out today to mark this occasion, and they've worked so hard to make this happen. Tell me about the community and why it's so important that this has happened for them.
Well, this is St Ewe. We are quite a small village. If you drive through the village, you'll only find a handful of houses, but it's a big community. I think we're one of the largest parishes in the county, so we cover a big area, but there's a lot of farms and agricultural land. But it's always been very proactive. We stood here by the village hall, which was the village school in years gone by and became the village hall. It was then extended in the year 2000 and is now very much part of the community. We've got an active church, we've got an active pub, we run all sorts of events throughout the year, and they always seem to be very well supported, so it's been great. So it's the village and beyond really that support us.
And there's people here of all ages, so I just wanted to ask why it's so important to keep affordable homes in the area.
I think housing, particularly in pretty villages, it's become so expensive, and it's really hard for people to buy. And sometimes when people want to stay within their community, where their support network is, it's really hard for them to afford to be able to stay. So the affordable housing gives some of those people an opportunity to stay within their community, where perhaps they've grown up or where their support network are, and it means that some of them will be able to stay here and keep our community going.
And you said in your speech then, when we all congregated here in front of the gates for the ribbon cutting, that this is just sort of the next milestone. There's still work to be done. What's the process now over the next few weeks, months and years?
Well, we're already talking to various firms of architects to get some quotes and this sort of thing. We're fundraising to try and get the money to do the next stage. We've got a grant application going in at the moment, so hopefully that will give us a little bit of an impetus to get it started. But the next step is to properly measure the site, work out what we can actually fit on there, go on from there, draw up some layouts and some designs. We'll then hold a public consultation so that the whole parish like this can turn out again, make sure there's tea and cake, and it will be great just to get some feedback then on what people want and how it's going to look.
You take a step back, it's a remarkable feat that you've been able to achieve. Now, a huge amount of money has been raised and awareness and conversations in the right places. I'm not expecting you to be able to name the 104 that's donated to the crowdfunder, but are there any words of thank yous or gratitude or anything you could think of that you'd like to share?
I mean, yeah, we are immensely grateful to everybody who's given money, given time, and there are so many. There are private individuals who have given money, there's local businesses who have given money, and it's just become, it's an amazing achievement for a small community to raise enough money to secure the land for the future of our community. It's brilliant.
NEWSWAVE.
Okay, that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid, on this week's edition of NEWSWAVE. A big Chaos Radio thank you to Roll Call, Derek Thomas of the Central Cornwall Integrated Care Area and Neil McKay from Truro's Integrated Neighbourhood team, to Kay and Darren of Rest with Joseph and Friends, to broadcaster and GP Dr. Hilary Jones and Michelle Holmes of Asda Pharmacy, to Nick Smith at Young People Cornwall, and to Paul Sibley and Will Richards from the St Ewe Affordable Housing Group. And as ever, a final thank you to you for listening and helping support local journalism to thrive. To catch up on all our coverage, as well as to check out our extensive back catalogue of interviews and shows, head on over to chaos.radio. And why not check out our new news service? That's at chaosnews.uk. And remember, if you have a local news story that you'd like to share with us, email news@chaos.radio or search Chaos Radio UK across socials. That's it then, you're up to date here on Chaos. I've been Tom Howe. Thank you so much for listening. Whatever it is that you're doing in your community this week, be sure to add just a little bit of chaos.
NEWSWAVE.
Chaos.radio. Music, podcasts, entertainment.